Raise your hands. Have you ever been pulled over by a police officer? This could be for a broken taillight, properly failing to come to a stop, or for speeding. For some, this may not be a nerve-wracking experience, but for others, like myself, it could be terrifying. Not too long ago, I was driving home late at night. I didn't realize the speed limit had dropped to 55. I was also relying on the fact that going 9 miles over the speed limit was acceptable. So traveling 74 and a 65 seemed okay to me. However, once the speed limit dropped to 55, especially in a construction zone, I put myself in real jeopardy. I saw a car come from the side of the road onto the highway, and again, it was night, so I just assumed it was some car that pulled over for some reason and needed to get back on the highway. But then the car got on my tail, and I'm in the left passing lane trying to get around a semi, and they get right behind me. So I sped up because I wanted to get around the semi. And at some point, I was able to get over to the right lane. I was tempted to speed up even faster, but I decided to maintain my speed, even slow down a little bit. But the car got behind me. That's when I probably figured something was up. Now we're somewhere around 70 miles per hour, and the flashing lights came on. And I saw the last few minutes flash before my eyes. I realized I could have made a lot of better decisions that I didn't. I pulled off as soon as I could, but we were in a construction zone and there weren't a lot of safe places. The cop told me to keep going, so then I moved up to a better spot. Now my heart is racing a little bit. And the first thing I did was put the car in park, turned on my hazards, and immediately took my hands and stuck them out the window, just to let the officer know that I didn't have anything, a gun or otherwise. There are just too many situations that can go the wrong way when you have my skin color, and all I knew is that I wanted to get home safely to my wife and kids. So now I'm staring out the window for quite some time, wondering what's taking the officer so long. But to my surprise, he comes around to the passenger side, which makes sense because we're on the side of the road. People are flying off of that off-ramp. So my heart is racing as I roll down the passenger window, but I wanted to de-escalate the situation. The first question he asked me is, did I drop something? I didn't understand at first, but it made sense. I had my hands sticking outside of the window. I said, no, I just wanted to show you that I had nothing in my hands. And it's interesting because he said, you don't have to do that. The question becomes, what did he mean at that moment? Do I not have to stick my hands out the window? That's not the protocol they expect? Does it make me more suspicious? And if he meant that I didn't have to do that as a black man in America, I'd have to say, I'm not so sure about that, officer. He proceeded to ask me, do I know why I was pulled over? I said, yes, I was going too fast. He then asked, didn't you see me pull out behind you? And I said, you could have been anybody. Lots of people pull over to the side of the road. He said, fair enough. But I was going 21 miles over the speed limit in a construction zone. Again, I didn't realize the speed had dropped down to 55. He said that could cost me $650 and enough points to lose my license. Now I knew I was going a little bit fast, but not that fast. I immediately apologized. Now, frankly, the construction zone was inactive, so I really thought that when there was activity happening during the day, that's when you really had to follow that rule really tightly. Not so much that when nothing's happening and the highway is relatively empty, that you needed to slow down or at least all the way down, because I thought there was a buffer, but he did address that as well. He said there is no such thing as a 1 mile, 2 mile, 5 mile, or 10 mile buffer. It just doesn't exist. The speed limit is the speed limit. He said if you're concerned about someone getting right behind your tail, don't speed up, slow down, and then get over to the right and let them go past you. In fact, he was actually after someone who was going much faster than me, but because I was in the way and speeding, he pulled me over. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't go the flow of traffic and not become a hazard by going so slow that everyone is whipping around you? No. And in all honesty, if that's what's happening, I'd be surprised that I would get pulled. But in this particular situation, like I said, the highway was relatively empty, so there was really no excuse for me to do what I was doing. Now, I have a clean driving record, so I moved very slowly to let him know that I'm grabbing my license so that I could show him. I needed to let the officer know I'm not a threat. Now, I could imagine there are a lot of people who are appalled that I would take that action, that I wouldn't just stand up and say, okay, what do you need, officer, and just act however I wanted to act. And all I can say is you do you. If you feel comfortable with that, fine. I don't want to be another statistic. You do realize the climate we live in. I didn't want to test the system, pulled over on the side of the road late at night by myself. No thank you. You can do what you want, but I'm not taking that risk in that situation. Now here's something interesting. He asked me for my insurance. I'm in a rental car that particular day. And typically when I go to the rental, I deny all the insurance that they offer because I know that I'm covered both by my personal insurance and my credit card. But he said that's not how it works. You have to call your insurance company and let them know to cover the specific rental car that you're in, so that in the situation, when they look up your insurance, they could see that it covers the car you're in. Now, that's something I really want to investigate because in all of my years of driving, I have never heard of that. I said, they never asked me at the rental counter for that. He said, they don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to rent cars and make money. Have you ever had that situation happen before? I'd love to know what you think. Put that in the comments, please. Now, whether he's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's probably some extra due diligence I need to do on my part. So to get back with what's happening now, he comes back with my license and a piece of paper, which I thought was the ticket, and it turned out to be a warning. Apparently, he has the discretion to give me a ticket or to just give me a warning. And I am so thankful, officer, that you gave me a warning. $650 would be a major impact to my budget, let alone having my license revoked. Look, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I want to follow the laws. The laws are a good thing. They help everyone get along and do the right thing and make society move. So I'm not in favor of just breaking the law for no reason. I do feel like there's a little bit of room to bend the law when it makes sense, and that's where we get into trouble because my bend is different than your bend, and that in of itself is kind of a diverse perspective. So what I would consider bending the law is going with the flow of traffic. But if you're the fastest one out there, you're probably setting yourself up for something not good. Ultimately, we need some sort of guidelines or rules to help all of our different and diverse perspectives get along and move forward together. And that's an interesting conversation that we'll continue to have on this channel. Meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you learned something. And if you did, we'd love it if you share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and please comment. We'd love to have this dialogue continue to see how would you have handled it? Would you have stuck your hands out the window? Would you have slowed down and got behind the truck immediately, naturally? For now, it's all good. Stay tuned for more Misfit Island.